Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
And I'm Chad with Believe in the Run.
You're a big dude.
I am a big dude. I am the resident Clydesdale reviewer for Believe in the Run. I bring you all the information about how shoes work for bigger runners.
Let's get the stats. What are you?
6'3", 275. And that's why shoes react a little bit differently to me than they do to you, Thomas, Robbie, and a lot of our other reviewers. It's different. The way the foam compresses, the way the ride feels underfoot. It's just generally different for bigger runners.
I'm looking at your picks. They wouldn't necessarily be my picks, but that's good that we can show maybe somebody out there that's looking for more support, better cushioning for that runner that needs a little more underfoot.
Absolutely.
Let's roll.
First shoe up, I'm gonna do daily trainers first, is the Saucony Hurricane 24. Now, technically, I believe Saucony classifies this as a stability shoe. What I really love about this shoe is that it's got the dual density foams of the Power Run PB right underfoot and a really nice cradle of their Power Run foam. Super stable, super sturdy, but you still get some of that elite foam immediately underfoot. It provides great cushioning. It has a great rocker feel to it, rolls right through, and it just gives you a little bit of everything for those daily miles that you're just gonna churn out during your training plan.
All right, so last year you did a review and did a video review, and you really liked the Tempest from Saucony. What's the difference between this and the Tempest, and which one do you like more?
This one's a little bit heavier than the Tempest. The Tempest came in around 8 something ounces. This is probably closer up to that 10 mark. I like this. It's a little more accommodating on the foot. The Tempest ran a little bit more narrow. And I can also take this a little bit longer distance because it just has a little bit more to it. The Tempest, once I got into those double digits, it just didn't really give me everything I wanted out of it. But the Power Run PB on this with a full slab of it underfoot definitely helps with that. Second daily trainer I have for you is the New Balance 880 V14. I was able to run a lot of miles in this summer, did a review on it. This is kind of New Balance's mid-range daily trainer. You get the 1080, you get the 880, you get the 860, which is their stability, the Vongo V6, which is their stability. This formulation of Fresh Foam X is, I think, the best that they have done. The 880, they rank it as a little bit firmer than the 1080, and I absolutely love it. I love slightly firmer feel underfoot in my daily trainers. This one has a nice wide base to it, which I love. It just fits the foot so well. It's breathable. The mesh was really good. Overall, it just has everything that I look for in the daily trainer. Good rubber coverage out on the outsole, which means you're gonna get a lot of miles out of it. I probably logged 30, 40 miles this summer in this shoe, and it just felt great every run.
I mean, this is a pretty basic shoe. We're talking simple upper, simple midsole, and simple outsole. What gave this one more personality than maybe some of the other choices?
I think the formulation of Fresh Foam X in this, where they really added some resiliency versus a lot of that soft squish which it had before. I had reviewed the V13 for the 1080 and it didn't really get along with me. It was a little too soft, not so stable. They've really updated that this year. This pick as a daily trainer might sound a little controversial. This is the On Cloud Monster Hyper.
It's definitely controversial. Neither Robbie nor myself were real big fans of this shoe. I've noticed that as people get bigger, this shoe seems to work better.
And it's controversial to me because I think this was tagged more to be a super trainer. It just doesn't have that feel to me. As you can see, it only has a little bit of that Helion super foam in the forefoot. When I think super trainer, I think a big slab of elite race day soft responsive foam. With it only having a little bit of it in the forefoot, it just didn't give me that super trainer feel. However, for a daily trainer, that soft comfort under the fat pad, there you go, felt really great with daily miles. The On's uppers, they have absolutely nailed recently.
Okay, so that is controversial for us. With my narrow foot, I found that this upper felt a little bit baggy, a little bit unstructured, but you're saying for your foot, this is good.
This one fit me absolutely perfectly. It's soft, it's breathable, it's great. The amount of Helion foam is just right for daily training. I wouldn't classify it as a super trainer. Now, it does have a super trainer price.
That's what I was gonna say.
Which that can be a little bit of a downfall for the shoe. You got to shell out over $200 to get it. But if you're looking for something that's going to handle a lot of miles, it has good rubber coverage. You should be able to get a bunch of miles out of it. Plus, it has the grippy laces, which
I do
were
like those
elite.
with the little rubber nibs.
Little rubber nibs on them.
Yeah.
Absolutely elite. Up next, we're going to move on to super trainers. First one I have for you is the Mizuno Neo Vista.
Now this is an interesting pick because this is also a top pick across the board for our reviewers. So this one's, the fact that you like it, Robbie likes it, Megan likes it, I like it, that's pretty much covers most runners in this spectrum.
That's true. It is very universally appreciated across the board. You have the kind of knit booty upper, which I usually do not get along with it. I am very prone to lace bite on my extensor tendons on the top of my feet.
Extensor tendons.
Yeah, there you go.
Biology.
However, there is just enough padding right over the foot because of the mesh that I didn't get any sort of lace bite in the shoe. The Mizuno Energy Next foam is soft and responsive. It has a plastic plate, which actually one of our reviewers, John Ober, put a hole in his with a rock.
Yeah,
I believe.
he is also another plus size runner, like Clydesdale runner.
Yeah.
But when I saw that hole, I was like, the amount of pressure that
Yep.
it must have taken to puncture a hole into this thing.
Yeah. Now, I ran the Baltimore 10 miler this June in this shoe. I wasn't going out to race it. I was going out looking for something comfortable. Absolutely loved it. It's a shoe that I turn to quite a bit when I'm just looking to maybe get up close to a double-digit mark during a training cycle. I have a long history with Mizuno. I ran my first marathon in a pair of Wave Rider 17s.
I think my first marathon was in a pair of Mizunos as well.
I love this shoe. It can handle everything, soft and bouncy.
What I would compare the midsole of this shoe to like another thing. You remember those pink rubber balls you could get at like 7-Eleven or wherever? Like if you're going to the beach, you got like one of those pink bouncy balls. It has that kind of like bounce to it.
Absolutely. And even with me, it had bounce, but it had the inherent stability from the plastic plate and the geometry, which has a great roll through. It just kind of kept you going right through.
Yeah, we're going to see this shoe at the end of the year for sure as one of our top picks because it crosses everybody's list.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other super trainer that I absolutely love this year, and I lace it up at least once a week, is the Hoka Skyward X. Now, Meg put 200 miles on hers in a very short period of time.
Yeah, again, this is one of those shoes that we all... I don't know if Robbie got into this one, but I know that Meg and I really enjoy running in this shoe.
I really enjoy it. Like I say, I lace it up at least once a week typically. It just is the perfect combination of no ground feel. If you don't want to feel the ground, you're not going to feel the ground. It has the stability from, I believe it's a forked plate. It's not a full
H
plate.
Imagine that the plate going like that and there's bars that come across. Yeah.
You and I both kind of agreed this colorway that they sent out, not the greatest, but they do have other colorways available. I believe there's a Big Bird yellow one.
Hoka's kind of been hit or miss on some of the colors. Like sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's really kind of fun. And other times I'm like, what did we do?
Yeah, the Mach 6 we got earlier this year, that had a nice kind of greenish colorway.
Mach X2 is, I like.
But this shoe, it just has the perfect level of bounce as well. You don't sink in, you actually feel the shoe give you back what you put into it. For how high the stack is, it actually is fairly stable, which for me, I have a slight overpronation in my right foot, not my left foot. So when I can err on the side of having something that's going to be stable or stable neutral, it just helps me out a lot. This is a super trainer, was able to get me through a lot of miles this summer. And I think I will keep turning to it until we get the Skyward X2.
Now you haven't tried the Puma Mag Max, but I feel like these two shoes are fit in kind of like a similar feel, like that really high stack, but still kind of fun and smooth to roll with. When you're using this shoe, what kind of types of runs would you use this shoe for?
I've used this primarily for those midweek runs, not necessarily on my workouts. I also used it for long runs while I was training through the summer, anywhere I was getting up close to double digits. Even though it weighs a good amount, like it's a hefty shoe, the amount of responsiveness you get from it, and the fact that I think most of the weight actually is in the upper, because the underfoot it actually feels somewhat light, the weight doesn't really impact you along the way. Okay, now we're gonna get into my favorite tempo day shoes. Now, I had shelved tempo work during the summer. I was in more of kind of a not necessarily training for anything sort of mode. It gets hot, and I was kind of taking a step back from training, didn't really have a lot of races on my calendar for the fall, so I took a step back from running tempo days, but I did run a lot of tempo work earlier in the year. Now, my favorite shoe potentially of the year is the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4.
Wow, of the year?
Of the year. To me, this shoe epitomizes everything I look for in a shoe. I would consider taking this out for daily miles if I really wanted to or needed to. One of the things that I really enjoy about this shoe is it is the perfect blend of the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2 and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. The 2 was fast, nimble, bouncy, it was probably one of people's favorite shoes of all time. The 3 took a little bit of a step back in terms of aggressiveness and tempo. A lot of people were using it as a daily, in addition to tempo work. This shoe just melded those two together. The formulation of Power Run PB is a little bit firmer, but definitely has a lot more pop to it. It is stable enough, which is what the 3 brought. 3 brought a little bit more stability than the 2. My ankles hurt quite a bit after some of my runs in the 2. What it does is it just gives you that perfect blend of pop yet stability for workouts. I worked out a lot in this shoe in the spring as I was doing prep for a half marathon in May, which I set a new PR in after
Congrats.
6 years. I just got to a certain point where this shoe feels so good on the foot. It's light, just like the 2 was. It's got the stability of the 3. It's breathable. You can actually see the mesh holes, you can actually see the insole in there, and it's a good looking shoe too, which look good, run good.
This is one of those shoes that we put in that category of like when someone's trying to say, I want one shoe to do it all. This fits in that category.
Yep.
Obviously for us, we're a little bit nerdy when it comes to shoes and want to line up where we have, daily trainer, tempo runner, race day. But for someone who's looking just for one shoe that, hey, they want to be able to kick out the miles and if possibly even race in it.
It's just a great overall option. The one thing I will say is Saucony really upgraded their rubber this year on almost all their models. So there's great grip. I ran tempo runs in the late spring in the rain and didn't have an issue.
Fun. Great.
Now, I had never run in nor even necessarily heard of Tier.
You look like a big swimmer.
I actually am a very good swimmer. I do swimming as a cross training. As a kid, I was actually lifeguard certified. Tier, who primarily comes from the swimming and triathlon sphere, has come out with what I think is just a shade underneath the Endorphin Speed 4 when it comes to tempo day, and that is the Valkyrie Speedworks.
Yeah, and this one blows my mind because you see all these shoe companies that are trying to put out a decent shoe, and Tier comes out of nowhere, drops 2 shoes that are very comparable. And honestly, in a blind test, you might put this on, and if I would give you the Saucony Pro and the Saucony Endorphin, you might take these 2 shoes and be like, they're the same thing.
The specs are very similar in terms of weight, stack height, foam composition. It's a PIVA-based foam that is very compliant, just like the Power Run PB and the Endorphin Speed 4. It was almost as if Tier hit copy and paste and put out this shoe. And what I will say is, I love the fit of this shoe a little bit more than the Endorphin Speed 4. The toe box narrows a little bit in the Endorphin Speed 4 and pinches the pinkies. This fit is a little bit better. And the Endorphin Speed 4 is just a little bit more stable. This I did just as many workouts in the spring as I did in the Endorphin Speed 4. I love this shoe. It was if Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 is 1A, this is 1B when it comes to tempo day. It's a great shoe. It's lightweight, it's super breathable. And when you're putting in those fast work miles and you're sweating, a breathable shoe is a must.
Yeah, it's definitely designed for that like triathlete crossover. So I wouldn't be surprised if, we're going to see a lot of these on those Ironman courses.
And if you read in there, always in front. Always in front.
Not me.
All right, so now we're moving on to race day shoes. I've only been able to review a couple race day shoes this year, and I will say both race day shoes that I was able to review, I'm going to put in this category because I got along with both of them really well. And the first is a New Balance SC Elite V4. Now, New Balance has just absolutely crushed it this year, not only in performance, but in design. I love the look of the fuel cell line this year, the Rebel, SC Trainer, SC Elite V4. They just absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, diamond cuts.
Diamond cuts, it just has that fast look. It looks like you're gonna run fast in it. Now, what I love about this shoe as a bigger runner is it is slightly less aggressive than a lot of the other super shoes you're gonna find on the market. The foam in the fuel cell, which is now PIBA powered, compliant, not super aggressive. The plate in it, the energy arc plate, propels you, stabilizes, but it doesn't have the same aggressiveness as the Alpha Fly.
So when you're saying aggressiveness, it's just so people get it. So you like this one because it's not as aggressive. Are you talking about like just that lean forward and the plate being more aggressive?
The lean forward, the scoop in the plate, it's got a 4mm drop as opposed to a lot of the other race day shoes that are higher drop, which kind of get you up on your toe. It just definitely has that feel of something where I feel like I could take this a long distance. I don't necessarily know if I could take an Alpha Fly, a Vaporfly for a long distance, because I think they would just absolutely wreck my ankles. It is stable for a super shoe. The platform is actually wider than a lot of the other super shoes you're going to find in the market in the midfoot. I really love it. The Phantom Fit upper, I think is a great improvement. I know a lot of people liked the SC Elite V3 and the RC V2 for kind of the booty upper. I actually really like the Phantom Fit. The tongue, don't get me started. I think all of us kind of agree that they kind of phoned it in on the tongue a little bit. But overall, SC Elite V4, great race day option for a bigger runner who wants something that's a little bit more designed for comfort while still being able to do speed.
So it's a race day shoe. It may not be your fastest choice, but it's definitely going to be comfort for that long, fast effort.
Correct. And it's a shoe that I feel comfortable also running tempo days in.
Okay.
So because of it being less aggressive, you can treat it as your race day shoe and the training companion to the race day shoe. The last shoe I have for you guys today in the race day category is the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris. Now, Asics, they do things a little differently. They put out two different versions of their race day offering, the Sky and the Edge. Yeah, and more just tend to be coming. I was able to get this shoe and wear it for the Cherry Blossom 10 miler in DC. And I gotta tell you, when this package arrived on my doorstep, I could have sworn I thought Asics had only sent me one shoe. I picked up the box and it felt like there was nothing in there. This is the lightest shoe I've ever held, other than when you let me hold your Evo Pro 1.
This is the lightest after that. I mean, this is lighter than the Vaporfly.
Lighter than the Vaporfly, but to me, it performs, I don't want to say just as good because my experience in the Vaporfly and Alphafly have been minimal. This shoe at the Cherry Blossom was incredible to race in.
Yeah. This is also my favorite race day shoe. I have both the Paris Edge and the Sky. Mm-hmm. Now the difference between those, like since you haven't worn the Edge, is the Edge actually scoops further below the front of the foot so that you get a little more cushioning before you feel that plate. Yep. This one, you actually activate the plate a lot sooner. It's closer to your foot. So they're both great. I switch back and forth between them, but definitely probably my favorite race day shoes so far this year.
Yeah, one thing I really love about it is when you have it on your foot, you can't feel that you have it on. Now the midfoot is a little bit more narrow, but the geometry of the shoe, they reduced the drop down on both models to 5 millimeters. The way the plate is shaped, it provides propulsion. When you're getting that roll through, you can really feel it pop. You don't feel like it's on. It's got the nubby laces, which are great. Tongue is thin, but I didn't have any sort of problems with lace bite at all. Overall, this is a great option. I haven't tried the edge. You can actually see where the plate runs here. The edge dips down a little bit lower for a little bit more foam under the forefoot for a little bit added comfort. I could see myself taking this and trying to run a fast half marathon with it. I don't know whether I could see myself taking this the full marathon distance, given that it is a little more aggressive and the plate is definitely a little more stiff than you see in a lot of them, and the shape of the plate being a little closer to the foot.
Yeah. I had two fantastic runs this past year at the Cherry Blossom and then the Annapolis 10 miler or Annapolis half. And I can't, like, this shoe kind of switched my mind because I've always been sort of loyal to the Nike product for race day. The Alpha Fly has been a favorite around the household, but this one kind of got under my skin. I kind of really love this shoe. As far as I have to agree with you, it's so far this year. We've got another one coming in a little bit, but it's gonna have to be really good to knock this one off the pedestal.
And it certainly helps when you get to run with an Olympian and Dina Castor.
That did help.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're gonna get on to recovery. Everyone needs recovery, bigger runners, smaller runners, we all need it. Mm-hmm. Self-care, taking care of yourself, getting sleep, doing that, hydrating, all of that's important, but so are recovery run days. And there is no better recovery run day shoe than the New Balance More V5. Somehow, some way, New Balance crammed more foam into this shoe.
More into the more?
More into the more. Now the question is more better? And in this scenario, yes it is. They added 4 millimeters to this to somehow decrease ground feel. But the midsole foam is the Fresh Foam X that you see in the 1080s, as opposed to being a super soft Fresh Foam X that was all squish. This now has some actual responsiveness to it, which on recovery day, I could usually take the prior iterations of the More 4, 5, maybe 6 miles. Because with there being so much cush, I felt like I had to work harder to get the shoe to turn over.
Like running through sand.
Running through sand. And it's a heavy shoe. Like
it is. I was going to say all your picks, except for the Asics, are on the heavier side of our scales.
So it's a heavier shoe, but with the responsiveness that you get underfoot on this now, you can recover, you get that squish, but also at the same time, the shoe gives you a little bit back. The first run I took on this shoe was over 6 miles, which was the longest I had ever taken the More V4. And I gotta say, I still take this out usually once a week. I think New Balance killed it with this. I think they've killed it with a lot of their shoes this year. Overall, when it comes to recovery day, max stack, this is the king.
All right, so this kind of brings up a question for me, because a lot of the shoes that you picked, I put a lot of emphasis on weight. Mm-hmm. And for me, when I'm running, the weight of the shoe changes how I feel, especially as I get later into the run. Mm-hmm. I can start to feel myself working if the shoe's on the heavier side, unless the foams, we talked about some of the foams giving you that little bit of bounce back and giving you that little bit of energy return. Mm-hmm. They kind of mitigate some of the, difference between weight. But I'm noticing from a lot of your picks, these are some of the heavier shoes that we've gotten this year. What is it that doesn't make a difference for you?
I think there's a few things that play into it. Me, as a bigger runner, my legs are already pretty big and pretty heavy themselves. I'm used to taking those things along with me on each run. So an ounce, a half an ounce, over the span of 4, 5, 6, 7 miles may not make that much of a difference to me as it would to you. Also, a lot of the shoes, when they get on the heavier side, so long as the added weight is in the upper versus underfoot, that can tend to make a big difference because it's the difference between lifting with the top of your foot or it being underfoot, and then it feels naturally a little heavier.
All right, so if you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to find out what we're doing, you can always go to believeintherun.com, sign up for our weekly email that lists out every review, every video, and highlights our 2 podcasts, The Drop and Fuel for the Soul, all in one spot, one weekly email, plus you get a nice written piece by Robbie that is always interesting. So do that, and then also check us out on Instagram, Believe in the Run.
And you can follow me on Instagram. I am the Clydesdale Runner. I have a dedicated column on the website where I pretty much quarterly update with what I think are the best shoes for bigger runners. And I hope to be bringing you more video content, maybe an end of the year roundup as well.
All right, keep living large.